The UCLA international freshman class is absolutely stacked. This is floor and ceiling, let's break them down. Let's kick things off with Spanish center Aday. The 7'3" Mata had a somewhat complicated path from Zaragoza, his Spanish club team, to UCLA, but he's in Westwood now and he has the most potential of any of the Bruins freshmen. It's Mata's passing that sets him apart from other 7-footers. At this stage of his development, I have to emphasize though, he is a much more willing playmaker than he is a scorer. The Bruins big can zip passes over the top, sling them with one hand, bounce them in with two hands, and he is a quick and usually accurate decision maker who plays with some creativity. I expect that UCLA will utilize Mata not just with his back to the basket, which we will get into shortly, but also above the break, usually around the top of the key. Mata can also facilitate in the short roll out of pick and roll situations where he's a fairly patient playmaker, even when he gets bumped off his preferred spot. Looking ahead to the NBA, he has a clear role here, catching passes on the move and spraying them out to shooters or cutters. Scoring-wise, Mata's gravity comes in catch-and-finish scenarios. He has solid hands to catch passes, gather, go up, and finish. Being 7'3", of course, gives him an intrinsic advantage over most defenders, but in order to be effective, he really needs to catch deep in the paint. That's because the UCLA big man really lacks physicality and assertiveness on a consistent basis. If a defender gets into his body, he can push Mata around and effectively eliminate him from an entire possession. This happens too easily. This season and looking ahead, I'm gonna want to see a switch in Mata's mentality. Right now, he won't get upset or demand the ball when he's pushed off his spots and forced to amble around the perimeter. Mata also isn't that great of an athlete. He can make multiple efforts, but he lacks strength, particularly in his lower body, as well as vertical pop. For instance, he's not really a big that's just gonna go up and explode for a dunk in cramped spaces. And then, although I like his touch close to the basket, he's gonna have to prove that he has any semblance of a jumper. Whatever range Mata shows off right now is limited to around the free throw line, and his numbers from the charity stripe are encouraging, but we haven't seen much going out to three. Because of his offensive limitations, I wonder about his fit next to Adem Bona, even though both of them on the court together would likely make for a very dominant defensive duo. Speaking of which, Mata's rim protection potential is very high with his tools. He can make plays and be disruptive just by staying vertical at the basket, even when he gets moved around on this end. The Spanish center has margin for recovery with his length and height to block or alter shots. We saw this at the FIBA Under-18 Euros this summer when Mata averaged nearly 3 blocks per game. The questions for him on defense come when he has to guard in space. Right now, Mata is strictly a drop coverage big who has decent positioning, but again, not much explosiveness. Mata moves his feet alright in a straight line, but he's very upright, which makes sense given his dimensions, and I'm sure that he will struggle at least at first versus small, agile ball handlers. Even against other bigs, he doesn't like to rush out to the perimeter in any way. Long closeouts to the three-point line are challenging for Mata, but he will have to improve on this when it comes to his NBA outlook. Jan Vide, a guard from Slovenia, could be UCLA's Luka Doncic. The similarities between the two playmakers go beyond their nationality. Watch Vide on the court, and the way he sees the game truly resembles the Dallas Mavericks star. Vide thrives most in isolation. For Slovenia, he was their undisputed primary ball handler and decision maker, often having a total monopoly on his team's offense. At this summer's Under-19 World Cup, Vide averaged 18 points per game, but on 17 field goal attempts a night. For better or worse, he's a high-volume player in every sense of the word. His go-to right now is this floater which we're seeing here. Particularly, he likes to go left and then shoot with his right hand. Vide has really soft touch and some range as well. On top of that, he has nice positional size for a guard at around 6'6", and I like that even right now he is comfortable playing in those in-between areas to put bigs in a tough predicament. At the same time though, and he has admitted this himself, he's too reliant on this runner. Vide is a steady ball handler who can get into the paint with relative ease. The Slovenian guard understands how to use a screen, but he also has a good, not great, first step, and he understands how to decelerate. Still, the UCLA guard lacks the upper body strength to move and finish through defenders in the air, and he tends to lean back and fade on his drives. Going forward, as he fills out his body, I want to see Vide go up, forward, and strong when he takes the ball to the rack. Definitely, he has the size to be a mismatch and bully smaller guards, and although Vide is not an awesome athlete, I think he's fine, and I don't believe that he's a below-the-rim finisher with the tools he has. If Vide is to keep playing as a point guard, then the three-pointer will be vital for him, more so in the NBA than in college, but also to be effective for UCLA. Vide applies pressure on defenses throughout a game because of his offensive motor and his drives, but not so much because of his jump shot. That's why for now, I have him on my second round watch list, despite his high volume scoring. The UCLA guard is uncomfortable from three-point range, and he's not a threat from deep. At times, he's unwilling to even pull up from range, and defenses should definitely go under on Vide and dare him to shoot. At the Under-19 World Cup, Vide went 5 for 22 from 3, which is very underwhelming. Even making spot-ups would help him significantly, but much like Luka Doncic as well, this has not been Vide's role. At this point, he wants to play with the ball in his hands, he's not that active off the ball, and he's unwilling as a spot-up shooter. I really do like Vide's scoring ability, size, and ball handling, but with the way he plays, it's almost like he needs to be the best player on his team. Otherwise, his strengths don't come into play that much, and this might not be the case at the next level. In terms of creating for others, I also want to see growth from Vide. For now, he's at his best in transition, and he prefers open court situations when it comes to facilitating. Whenever Vide has teammates and rim runners in front of him, he's an unselfish passer with some vision. But he has to keep developing in the half court, where his game can become far too predictable or even forced. Berke Buyuktuncel, the big-bodied Turkish playmaker, looks like the connector that this UCLA team needs. Able to play the 3, the 4, and maybe even some small ball 5, Buyuktuncel brings a versatile dribble pass shoot skill set to Westwood, with his facilitating, scoring, and also his defense. Offensively, I like Buyuktuncel the most when he's playing out of ball screens. In his case, it can be either when he's getting a pick from a big and then making a decision, or more often than that, it's when the Turkish prospect is the screener himself. Buyuktuncel can shoot and make threes out of spot-ups and catch and shoots. I think this will be very useful in college and going forward. After all, most teams nowadays want their wings and forwards to be able to shoot. He can then put the ball on the floor for a few dribbles and get to the rim, leveraging that same three-point shooting to attack closeouts fluidly. This can also come with a jumper out of 1 or 2 dribbles. And then, Buyuktuncel can also punish mismatches given his positional size and frame. When it comes to taking advantage of a shifting defense, the UCLA prospect has flashed just about everything that I want to see from him. Buyuktuncel is bigger than most threes, and he's more skilled and comfortable as a facilitator than a lot of fours. This summer, Turkey used him out of the post quite a bit. That's where Buyuktuncel can zip skip passes with great weight using one or both hands. His reads are advanced, and his execution on these passes is crisp, finding other three-point shooters all over the floor while not accumulating turnovers. In general, Buyuktuncel is a capable facilitator whose size gives him access to angles that guards might not have. He can make passes over the top or around defenders, and for me, this buildup of skills offsets his problems finishing at the rim. That's where I want to see the most growth from Buyuktuncel. He's at best an average vertical athlete, and right now, even though he can get to the basket through his size and ball handling, his lack of burst hurts him as a finisher. Buyuktuncel has a tough time going up against length, and he lacks the twitch to be a difference maker in traffic. On defense, we'll have to see how he fares off against better athletes, but so far, I've been impressed. Buyuktuncel's height and frame, much like on offense, really helps. His timing is nice as well. He knows when to swipe down on blocks and keep the ball in play with a wingspan that hovers around 7 feet. Broadly speaking, he's not the most fluid in space. Whenever he has to flip his hips, he can suffer, and he has a bit of a loading time. But the Turkish forward is very patient and disciplined, and he times himself very well, like I said, despite not being that powerful. Until now, Buyuktuncel has always had a great reputation on this side of the ball, so if he can maintain it while showing off his versatility on offense, then the UCLA freshman is a very real prospect. ILANE FIBLEUIL has gone a little under the radar, but I love the French guard as a prospect, and I think he's a major sleeper for this year's draft and beyond. This lack of hype might be because he hasn't gotten as much exposure, having had a more straightforward path to UCLA than his fellow international freshmen. But FIBLEUIL has a very complementary game to everyone we've looked at so far, and in general, I find that his toolbox of skills is very scalable next to any other top prospect. What caught my eye the most watching his tape was how often FIBLEUIL turns defense into instant offense. I really like the French freshman as an off-ball defender. He's gonna have to prove this at a higher level, but he's attentive and aware. He tracks his man away from the ball and then pounces in to create plays using his length and athleticism. FIBLEUIL looks like a very good athlete, and I actually think he's gonna grow even more in this respect as he gets stronger. The Frenchman has a quick first step that allows him to get out in transition, and he also has above the rim athleticism that can lead to some really exciting dunks on the break. At around 6'6", FIBLEUIL profiles as a 2 guard, but I think he'll be able to play the 3 as well with what he brings to the table. Off the ball, he's enticing as a spot-up shooter who doesn't require a ton of touches to be efficient in his role. At the FIBA Under-17 World Cup last summer, he made 8 of his 13 threes. That's low volume throughout 7 games, but everything about his shot, from the prep to the release, looks repeatable and clean. Next to facilitators like Jan Vide, and Buyuktuncel, I think he's going to get a ton of good outside looks. I also appreciate FIBLEUIL's willingness to do the dirty work. He'll use his athleticism to crash the boards, make second and third efforts, and rack up extra chances for his team. A coach like Mick Cronin is sure to love that, and coupled with FIBLEUIL's other defensive flashes, this will keep him on the floor even when his shot isn't falling. Looking to his freshman season for the Bruins, I'm looking for 2 things from FIBLEUIL. The first one is more consistent finishing. I think he has the touch and athleticism, so this might be a strength issue right now. But when FIBLEUIL gets to the rim, he's still leaving bunnies on the table. The encouraging note is that he's shown an ability and desire to finish with both hands, so now it's just about raising that conversion rate. And hopefully he can leverage his 3-point shooting to also attack closeouts. Then, it's also true that FIBLEUIL is still somewhat of an unknown quantity when it comes to creating his own offense off the dribble. There's nothing wrong with him being at his most dangerous in transition and out of spot-ups right now, but that does limit his ceiling. However, FIBLEUIL is still very young. He's only going to turn 19 right as the 2024 draft rolls around, so he has plenty of time to iron these things out, be it this year or in the future.